there, my dear friends, and welcome back to another episode of Whispering Wikipedia. Now, I may look a little bit different than my last video, because for me it has actually been well over a month. The videos which you have been watching were all from my second channel, which I decided to move over to this channel so I can focus on building one community. I didn't like the fact that everything felt disjointed and didn't work well together, so I decided to move everything into one kind of channel as it was before. Now, you may notice that the camera angle is slightly different. I have the camera much further back, and I am sitting at a different distance from my green screen. So you may notice that my hand is here, and now I assume it is gone. Because before I was only sitting in front of the green screen, but now I have other things in the shot because the camera angle is slightly wider. So I have to learn to keep my hands within the green screen area, otherwise they'll get chopped off. Regardless, I wanted to experiment with a different shot type, as I felt that I've always been very close to the camera, and I don't think that there is anything wrong with being close to the camera, especially in personal attention. But I felt that it almost got a bit too intense when I was just doing my normal whispering videos to be that close. Berners-Lee is credited with inventing the World Wide Web in 1989 and developing in 1990 both the first web server and the first web browser called World Wide Web, no spaces, and later returned to Nexus. Many others were soon developed, with Mark Anderson's 1993 Mosaic, later Netscape, being particularly easy to use and install, and often credited with sparking the internet boom of the 90s. Other major web browsers have been Internet Explorer, Firefox, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Opera, and Safari. NCSA Mosaic was a graphical browser which ran on several popular office and home computers. It is credited with first bringing multimedia context to non-technical users by including images and text on the same page, unlike previous browser designs. Mark Anderson, its creator, also established the company that in 1994 released Netscape Navigator, which resulted in one of the early browser wars when it ended up in a competition for dominance, which it lost, with Microsoft Windows Internet Explorer, which was bundled with Windows, which in turn led to the United States versus Microsoft Corporation antitrust lawsuit. The web began to enter general use in 1993 to 1994, when websites for everyday use started to become available. Commercial use restrictions were lifted in 1995 in the US. The online service America Online, AOL, offered their users a connection to the internet via their own internal browser using a dial-up internet connection. Faster broadband internet connections have replaced many dial-up connections since the beginning of the 2000s. Now we move to use in wider society. During the first decade or so of the public internet, the immense changes it would eventually enable in the 2000s were still nascent. In terms of providing context for this period, mobile cellular devices, smartphones, and other cellular devices which today provide near universal access were used for business and not a routine household item owned by parents and children worldwide. Social media, in the modern sense, had yet to come into existence. Laptops were bulky, and most households did not have computers. Data rates were slow, and most people lacked means to video or digitize video. Media storage was transitioning slowly from analog tape to digital optical discs, DVD, and to an extent still floppy disks to CD, enabling technologies used from the early 2000s such as PHP, modern JavaScript and Java, technologies such as Ajax, HTML4 and its emphasis on CSS, and various software frameworks which enabled and simplified speed of web development largely awaited invention and their eventual widespread adoption. The internet was widely used for mailing lists, emails, e-commerce, and early popular online shopping, Amazon and eBay for example, online forums and bulletin boards and personal websites and blogs. server-side scripting was rare on shared servers, so the usual feedback mechanism was via email, using mail-to forms and their email program. During the period 1997 to 2001, the first speculative investment bubble related to the internet took place, in which .com companies, referring to the .com top-level domain used by businesses, were propelled to exceedingly high valuations as investors rapidly stoked stock values following by a market crash, the first .com bubble. However, this only temporarily slowed enthusiasm and growth, which quickly recovered and continued to grow, with the call to Web 2.0 following soon afterward. The period of the internet up to around 2004-2005 was retrospectively named and described by some as Web 1.0. Now, 2004 to the present, some people know it as Web 2.0, and this is talking about global ubiquity and social media. The changes that would propel the internet into its place as a social system took place during a relatively short period of time of no more than 5 years, from around 2004 to 2009. They included the call to Web 2.0 in 2004, first suggested in 1999, accelerating adoption and commoditization among households of and familiarity with the necessary hardware, such as computers. What a randomly technical way of saying that people started using computer hardware. Accelerating storage technology and data access speeds, hard drives emerged, took over from far smaller, slower floppy disks, and grew from megabytes to gigabytes, and around 2010, terabytes. RAM from hundreds of kilobytes to gigabytes as typical amounts on a system, and Ethernet, the enabling technology for TCP/IP, moved from common speeds of kilobits to tens of megabits per second to gigabits per second. High-speed internet and wider coverage of data connections at lower prices, allowing larger traffic rates, more reliable, simpler traffic, and traffic from more locations. The gradually accelerating perception of the ability of computers to create new means of approaches to communication, the emergence of social media and websites such as Twitter and Facebook to their later prominence, and global collaborations such as Wikipedia, which existed before but gained prominence as a result. The mobile revolution, which provided access to the internet to much of human society of all ages in their daily lives and allowed them to share, discuss, and continually update, inquire, and respond. Non-volatile RAM rapidly grew in size and reliability and decreased in price, becoming a commodity capable of enabling high levels of computing activity on these small handheld devices, as well as solid-state drives. A lot of people think the solid-state drives are the fastest drive, but actually recently, or relatively recently, the technology has been upgraded and there is a drive that is faster than SSD. They're called M2 drives, and I'm getting one of them when I upgrade my computer. The next point, an emphasis on power-efficient processor and device design rather than purely high processing power. One of the beneficiaries of this was ARM, a British company which had focused since the 1980s on powerful but low-cost, simple microprocessors. ARM architecture rapidly gained dominance in the market for mobile and embedded devices. The term Web application design, where she wrote, "The web we know, which loads into a browser window in essentially static screenfuls, is only an embryo of the web to come. The first glimmerings of Web 2.0 are beginning to appear, and we are just starting to see how that embryo might develop. The web will be understood not as screenfuls of text and graphics, but as a transparent mechanism. The ether through which interactivity happens. It will appear on your computer screen, on your TV set, your car dashboard, your cell phone, handheld machines, maybe even your microwave oven." Wow. A glimpse into the future from someone in 1999. Very smart individual. The term resurfaced during 2002 to 2004 and gained prominence in late 2004 following presentations by Tim O'Reilly and Dale Doherty at the first Web 2.0 conference. In their opening remarks, John Bedell and Tim O'Reilly outlined their definition of the web as platform, where software applications are built upon the web as opposed to upon the desktop. Interesting idea. The unique aspect of this migration, they argued, is that customers are building your business for you. They argued that the activities of users generating content in the form of ideas, text, videos, or pictures could be harnessed to create value. Clever. I can see the way that this would pave way to YouTube or similar content creation mediums. Web 2.0 does not refer to any update, to any technical specification, but rather to cumulative changes in the way web pages are made and used. Web 2.0 describes an approach in which sites focus substantially upon allowing users to interact and collaborate with each other in social media dialogue as creators of user-generated content in a virtual community, in contrast to websites where people are limited to the passive viewing of content. This makes sense, and I can also see how this would drag people in and make them more, likely to live their lives online. So from the masters who understood this idea and perhaps put it into motion, I can see how it would be an extremely tempting idea to implement. And of course we all know now that the internet and internet groups are largely a part of everyone's life. Examples of Web 2.0 include social networking services, blogs, wikis, folksonomies, video sharing sites, hosting services, web applications, and mashups. Terry Flew, in his third edition of New Media, described what he believed to characterize the differences between Web 1 and Web 2. The move from personal websites to blogs and blog site aggregation, from publishing to participation, from web content as the outcome of large upfront investment to an ongoing and interactive process, and from content management systems to links based on tagging. Folksonomy. This era saw several household names gain prominence through their community-oriented operation. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Wikipedia being some examples. Now we move to the mobile revolution. The process of change that generally coincided with Web 2.0 was itself greatly accelerated and transformed only a short time later by the increasing growth in mobile devices. This mobile revolution meant that computers in the form of smartphones became something many people used, took with them everywhere, communicated with, used for photographs and videos they instantly shared, or to shop or seek information on the move, and used socially, as opposed to items on a desk at home or just used for work. Location-based services devices using location and other sensor information and crowdsourcing. Frequently, but not always location-based, became common, with posts tagging by location or websites and services becoming location-aware. Mobile targeted websites such as m.website.com became common, designed especially for the new devices used: notebooks, ultrabooks, widespread 4G and Wi-Fi, and mobile chips capable of running at nearly the power of desktops. From not many years before, on far lower power usage, became enablers of this stage of internet development, and the term app emerged, short for application program or program, as did the App Store. The mobile revolution has allowed for people to have a nearly unlimited amount of information at their fingertips. With the ability to access the internet from cell phones came a change in the way we consume media. In fact, looking at media consumption statistics, over half of media consumption between those aged 18 and 34 were using a smartphone. Interesting indeed. Okay, dear friends, now this episode probably feels a little bit short just because of my long preamble at the start, but I'm going to end it here just because we have a lot more and I don't want to dig into something and have to pause halfway through. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please leave